Hello, hello. Welcome to episode 127 of Cantinho Benfiquista podcast. Slowly regaining form. The engine slowed down a little bit after the World Cup break, but I think we're starting to gain a little momentum here. With you, as always, myself, Mike. I have Oscar, Kenny, Bill. Jason is off today. He was unavailable. He was available the last 2 days, but we had to keep pushing this out due to personal and professional reasons. We're back after a 2-week break, travel, work stuff, personal stuff. So we're back. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Very good. Welcome back, guys.
Good to be back again with another W. We're starting to pick up some momentum here. Benfica wins today against Paços Ferreira. We beat Santa Clara at the weekend. We had a little speed bump against Sporting, the game that I was fortunate to go see at the Stade de Luz, but we keep rolling. Top of the league still. Put a little pressure on our opponents with today's win. A match that was pushed up due to some scheduling. So we, put a little fire under Braga and Porto to see what they can get out of it. Before we get started, if you could hit the like, hit the share button, and see if we can get a few more viewers in here throughout the podcast. If you can join the conversation, the chat, partake in it. We want it to be as interactive as possible. So if you have your thoughts, your opinions, your views, by all means, put them in the comments, and we will be sure to bring them up on screen or give our opinions on it. Don't forget to also rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We want to get that rating up, if you could. And para a malta que esteja a ver em português, esteja à vontade aqui de participar nesta nossa conversa. Todos percebemos e falamos português, por isso podem deixar os vossos comentários em português na caixa de comentários e nós iremos falar sobre elas ou abordar as vossas opiniões e as vossas questões. Por isso estejam à vontade. Hoje é o nosso podcast em inglês. Também temos um podcast em português com um painel diferente, mas estejam à vontade de participar aqui nesta nossa conversa. Today, Paços Ferreira 0, Benfica 2. We will talk about the first half of the season and how you guys would rate it. We'll talk about the transfer market. There's been a lot of scrutiny that Benfica has been under over the last few years, where we bring lots of players in, and a lot of them never even end up making it for the first team. They get loaned. It's just a carousel of deals and money, and who else knows whatever it is. We'll talk about that. And for the end, we will have a new segment we're going to test out here: overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated. And we'll tell you ahead of time, the player that was chosen today was Nico Gaitan. So at the end, we'll all give our thoughts on, do we think he was overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated based on his career at Benfica, not his career as a whole. We'll start with Benfica, Paços Ferreira 0, Benfica 2, starting 11. For the most part, picked itself. I think there was some maybe uncertainty on would Gonçalo Guedes come into the starting 11 after his goal against Santa Clara or not. Would Neres come in? Would Draxler remain? Otamendi comes back in after suspension. So back line with Ba, Otamendi, Antonio Silva, and Grimaldo, which is as expected. Midfield, Enzo and Florentino together. Again, as expected. João Mario, Gonçalo Guedes, and who was the other one?
Freddie.
And Auschwitz in the front three, and Gonçalo Ramos up top. Oscar, I'm going to start with you. What were your thoughts on this game? And I know you're a big Guedes fan, and we're going to get into it. But how were you feeling to start in terms of his introduction into this team?
I mean, let's not even talk about today. Last week against Santa Clara, coming into the lineup, he came in the second half, I believe the 60-something minute or whatever it was, and scored right away. I think you can't have a better start back to the team as that, right? And then today, I mean, he wasn't anything special. He got the foul that Grimaldo scored the free kick on, but other than that, it was like a very quiet night. He has some plays that you could tell that
he had to play the second goal, that through ball to Auschwitz, which I don't know how the hell he even saw that.
A few plays that he stood out, but after the 2-0 today, I think as a team, we just, I think, took a foot off the pedal and let the game flow until the end, which I don't like. They hit the woodwork 2 or 3 times, and could have easily came back into the game with one of those going in. I wasn't a fan of today's game. I was a fan of the first 20 minutes, and then after that, it was like one of those games that, like, I don't like watching Benfica play. I like them to score and then keep playing hard, not to let those guys come back into the game. We just got lucky. Audi had a great game. He had some great saves, and some of them were offside, but they still saves to me, because he still stopped those balls. So besides that, I think it was a great win, a better result, and a performance.
Okay. And just quick shout out to Jaime. He says Champions League is ours this year. Mark my words.
Caralho.
And Miguel says strong first half, second half. We basically let the minutes go by. And I think that touches on a little bit of what Oscar said here. But before I pass the ball, Oscar, I'm going to ask you this. And I agree with you, right? I think even against Santa Clara, first half we suffocated them, right? And then second half we kind of just started to navigate the game and let it play out. Today I felt the same thing. I think we came in guns blazing. We got the results straight away, and then it was basically like a comfort zone, right? Let's just make sure that we don't risk too much, right? But we don't expose ourselves too much. But did you ever at any point feel like Benfica was like on the ropes? Because I know we've had games, maybe not so much this year, but just in general, where a team naturally will let their foot off the gas, right, and get complacent. And then all of a sudden you go through a phase there where you're like 10, 50 minutes and you're like, fuck, we need to get out. Like, what's going on? I didn't feel like we had a phase like that, but I don't know if you felt different.
I didn't either until if they scored, I think I would have. But
fair. And they hit the woodwork three times. But I still feel like out of those 3 times, apart from those one-off chances, which could have made a difference, apart from those one-off chances, I feel like we were never like against the ropes, or we had a phase where we just couldn't do anything.
Right, but then again, think about this. What chances did we create? We created those 2 goals.
I agree.
And it happens that ours went in, theirs didn't. The game could have been easily a tie game. If it's so I think if they had scored a goal and the way we were playing, I would have been scared to suffer a second goal and tie this game.
Fair. And Bill, I'll pass it to you. Based off of that thought process, and Miguel says we can't play like this against teams from the upper part of the table.
Agree.
Absolutely. But I do think there's this mentality that naturally you play down to your opponent, right? Up 2-0, you're away, right? And you just kind of get into that complacent mindset. But I felt, and I'll ask you this question, I felt, to Oscar's point, right? If they score, the game changes, right? Paços Ferreira gains a little bit of momentum, puffed their chest out. They actually didn't play bad, I thought, during the game. I thought going down 2-0 early, they could have easily unraveled, and they didn't. But I felt the sense of like, if one of those chances for Paços Ferreira did go in and they made it 2-1, I felt like if Benfica turned up the heat again, I think we could have really pushed them up against the ropes. But what do you add to Oscar's analysis of the game and thoughts on the whole, we're kind of just managing the game out and letting it play out?
I mean, I agree. I think that that first 25, 30 minutes, we were all over them. We got the two goals early, and I think that kind of set the team's mentality for the rest of the game, right? Like, we have our lead, comfortable lead, right? It can obviously change with Paços scoring, but they went into cruise control. And like Mike said, I feel like if Paços did score in one of those chances, Benfica could have easily turned it back up and put more pressure on and kind of gone for more of an attacking performance. But I think those 2 early goals really set the team up to just go into cruise control the game. Because I don't think the game ever got out of like our pace. Like, it was played the way we wanted it to be played, right? Paços had stints where they possessed the ball, but like Mike said, they didn't create. Like, they had the 3 chances that came off the bars were all like one-offs, right? Like little flukes. There was one in the first half where Ba slipped, and then somehow the ball gets through Enzo's foot, like between both Enzo's feet,
and
comes
off
the
post.
Yeah, like those are like flukes, right? And if one of those goes in, like nothing.
And they had the chance that Audi saved, but ended up being offsides.
Yeah, the one on Nico, which was a hell of a save because he was like a yard away from him. But I feel like the game was always in Benfica's control, right? If we wanted to turn it up, we could have. And I'm fine with games like this, right, where we get the early lead and then we go into more of a controlling the game, controlling the pace type of mentality, and not guns blazing, right? Because like this is halfway point, right? This is the first game of the second round of the season, right? And we still have Champions League coming up. We still have Taça de Portugal coming up. Like, there's a lot of games coming. And there's going to be games like this where against teams we get early leads. And I'd rather see Benfica control rather than go all out attack the whole like 60, 70 minutes. And then the last 20, 30 minutes, you're gassed and exhausted, and it could potentially cause issues for a game in the middle of the week, right? Like, there's going to be games where we're going to have to go into this kind of mentality where we get an early lead and we just suffocate the game, right? Like, we might not score again, but we're controlling it. We're making sure the game
may not be pleasant, but you get it done.
Right. Exactly. The game's played at your pace and the style you want it to be. You're controlling the game even if you don't have 80% possession, right? Like, Paços kept it, but they were back and forth, side to side in the midfield and in the back, right? That, like, if you're not going to have possession, that's where you want the other team to have it, is in the back, their back line, in the midfield, just going side to side and not really creating anything.
Yeah, and I mean, stats-wise, Paços Ferreira had less possession in the second half than they did in the first. First half, Benfica had 65 to 35% possession. Second half, Benfica was 69 to 31. Again, the game was pretty much resolved in the first 10 minutes. But yeah, there's always that concern of, like, you fall asleep into this lull. And again, against better opposition, they're going to take their chance, and then they're really going to turn up the heat and make things difficult for you. But again, I feel like you just naturally play down to your opponent. Kenny, I know that you didn't get a chance to watch the game, but I think this conversation in general, I think, plays into a lot of different types of games that we've seen in the past. My question to you is, I'm gonna ask you the Gonçalo Guedes question here, which is, right, he came in on Sunday or Saturday, whatever day it was. I know that our group of friends, I feel like I don't even think divided is the right term. I think it's very one-sided in terms of ones that prefer Guedes and ones that don't care for him. I would probably be willing to say it's probably like 75-25, maybe even more lopsided than that. It might be like 90-10. I know Oscar's a huge advocate for him. I can't think of anyone else that's as big of an advocate for him.
Tilted which way, though, that they like that he's back?
I'm saying just as a player in whole, as a whole. Like
70% of people don't care.
Don't think
you'll make a difference. You'll make a difference, or that he's not. He's nothing special. Basically,
correct. And I'm going to ask you, what side of the fence are you at? Right, I know he's a Benfica youth product. He's had stints here and there at Valencia, mostly in terms of he showed some talent on the national team in the Nations League. He was a crucial part to that team. What do you think of this? Of him coming back home, essentially, and how do you think he could really help this team, not just domestically, but his experience and his capabilities, even in Europe?
Yeah, and I think you just said it there, right? I think he's got some experience outside of the Portuguese league that made him a more mature player. I think coming back, there's a couple of ways that I look at it, right? I think it's a good body to have. I think he's a good player. As you like, Rafa's hurt, right? For the foreseeable, I don't know, maybe another game or two. So this is a good player to have as a backup. And I think that it could set a precedent that maybe some of these other youth players that have left, maybe it sets a precedent that they also start coming back once their career starts, like, on the decline. Not that I don't think Guedes is on the decline. I just, I think he's been in a couple of spots where he hasn't had as much success, but I think in the Portuguese league, I think he could create, be lethal or worth a player that can be dangerous. Just around these last couple of games, right? I didn't catch the game today, but I think we're at a phase of the season where it's kind of these, especially these last two games, road games, bottom of the table teams, part of the season where you're still trying to get back into form. After the World Cup, I still think we're still trying to build up to that same form that we were having. And I think you're going to have these games where they're kind of like lulls, right? The most important part is not tripping up, not losing points, which that's the main goal. So the performances, I get they're not up to par that we were used to before the break. I think we're still trying to build up there. And I think we're in the phase of the season where things are kind of just like in the basketball season, right? You have that middle of the season grind And I think we're in that phase. And then once the Champions League games start kicking back up, I think the intensity and the motivation for the players starts to kick back in.
I agree. And just a shout out to Jay's in the comments listening. And SLBS says, and this is going to be my question to you, Kenny, and then I'll pass it around the group, is he says, hey, fellas, Geds will be fighting for a starting spot with Rafa and Neres. And I don't think so much Rafa. I think Rafa is an automatic on the starting lineup, regardless of where he plays.
And not Neres either. Neres doesn't start.
Well, right now, right? But what my question was going to be is, with everyone fit in this lineup, and Kenny, I'll start with you. Does Geds start? With everyone fit, does Geds start here?
With Neres playing at his
everyone fit and playing at a top level. Think of Ned as what we saw at the first half of the season, or at least the first couple of months.
Yeah, I would say I would prefer probably Ned's over Gids if Ned is at the beginning of the season type form, right? I think right now though, I think Ned certainly has something going on. I don't know if it's just again middle of the season lull that he's having, and Gids could come in and if he can start scoring like last game, but also like creating chances and being dangerous, I think he could earn the spot. But yeah, I agree that Rafa, I don't think he's really competing with Rafa.
Yep. Okay. So
it's a good option. It's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah.
It's a good headache to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll get to Miguel's comment when I give it to Oscar, because I think it'll align probably with Oscar's thought process. Bill, I'll pass it to you. With everyone fit and performing at a peak level that we've seen from the team in the first couple of months of the season, does Gonzalez start or does he not?
I'm leaning more toward what Kenny was thinking, right? Like, Neres at the top, that top form that we saw him to begin the season, like it's hard for me to take him out. I think they're two very different players, right? I think Geds is more of like he's going to beat someone with his pace, not his trickery, right? And Neres is more of that tight space, one-on-one, like trickery on the touchline.
But he's also sneaky quick.
Right, but he's not
without the ball. He's quicker without the ball than he is with the ball.
Right, Geds to me is one of those players where he's not going to beat you with like a trick, right? It's going to be more of
pace.
He's going at you. He's going to like kick the ball a little long and try to beat you with his pace, right? Like kick it around you one side and beat you on the other side, right? Like with just pure pace. Whereas Neres will take you on, right? Like he'll try to beat you. He's quick, but he'll try to beat you with some trickery. He can get it down the line. He's pretty good with both feet. Geds with his left, I mean, obviously he's not going to want to play anything with his left, right? He's going to force everything to go to his right. But I think both in top form, I'd lean more toward Neres because I think with Ramos and Neres, the trickery, the pace, I think that causes more issues for defenders than having someone that's going to be more of a like north-south type of runner where he's going to get the ball and just try to beat you with pure pace, right? Like if you're playing a team that's going to compact right in the back and you're 11 behind the ball, pure pace isn't going to do it because you're not going to have much space to run into, right? You're going to need someone that can hold the ball, work in those tight little spaces, and can create and get a shot off with like no space at all. And we've seen Neves do that, and I think Geds needs more. He needs more room to operate than Neves does.
Fair. I will say that Geds had a good 1-2 with Auschwitz at the top of the box today in a tight space, and he was able to get 100%. A shot off and just missed. I'm going to have another question for you guys as a whole, but I'm going to skip that and go to Oscar first and quickly touch on Miguel's comment here. Is Geds is definitely a big signing as he has characteristics that no other forward has. He's fast, he shoots well, and can play in several positions in the attack. To imagine an offensive trident with Geds, Rafa, and Ramos is absolutely insane as far as the Portuguese league goes, at least. But even in a Champions environment, it can pose a lot of problems to other teams. Oscar, I know you're probably the biggest advocate for Geds over the years in terms of what he's capable of and what he brings to the table, not just at the club level, but at the international level as well. How do you see this addition to the team? And again, fully fit everyone at the top of their performance. Does he start for you?
I think so, and I'll tell you why. All right, so everybody at the top form, nobody like obviously we're not going to get that. We're going to get a lot of people like we're going to have Rafa low moments during the season. We're going to have Jean-Marie a low moment. So you're going to have it's good to have these guys in that can step in and play just as good, right? So my thing is, everybody at the top form, Geds offers us something that the other guys don't, which is basically back and forth type of player. He can attack just as he can defend. That guy is on everybody's heels defending with he's like I don't know how to compare him, but today you saw how he got a yellow card. He's hustling back. Yep. He's getting fouls in. Like, that's a type of guy that I like to see with Benfica playing back on a side, right? I would see Geds. To me, everybody top form is Geds, Rafa, João Mario, and Ramos up top. And the person that I see losing their spot, unfortunately, is Freddie.
Fair.
With Tino and Enzo. And to be honest with you, if Enzo keeps playing the way he's playing, I wouldn't mind Enzo sitting on the bench a few times, because today he sucked.
I thought he did good against Santa Clara.
Yeah, but today he was totally off. Every pass was off. Like, corner kicks was off. Everything was off today.
And Freddie's a man. I fucking love that guy.
I like Freddie. He's sneaky good. I know he is. But to me, Freddie was playing better than Enzo. But do you take out Enzo and lose the millions?
That's the tricky part, right? There's a lot of elements that are in play with Enzo and what you do with him. But my question to you, and Jay says me and Oscar agree. Wow, Jason's very much of the same
Wait
mindset.
Until the end.
Oh boy. Do you guys see a scenario where the three of them can play? Neds, Rafa, Geds, and Neds.
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on the opponent, right? Like, if it's going to be like a game like today, or like
Geds can play anywhere across that front three,
right?
And Rafa can play anywhere across that front.
Like Oscar said, like if you take Freddie out, right, you can easily play.
But in that point, if you play the three of them, you got to take Freddie and João Mario.
Yeah,
right.
You can, or Enzo or Tino.
But it depends. It all depends on, like, Bill's going at it. It depends on the team. If you have a team that you can play wide, then yeah, you can play both of those players. If a team you have to play in the interior, then you can't take those players, because João Mario and Freddie are guys that come in. So it depends who you playing and what opponents, what guys are in the back line.
I mean, and I wouldn't be surprised to see at some point Geds playing up top in that striker role. Right? He played it at Wolves a bit. He played it at Valencia. Right? We're a little thin up top. If this Ramos injury that he came off with is anything significant, right? Like, do we really trust Musa? Like, Musa hasn't shown anything.
Geds and Rafa will be dangerous up top.
You throw Geds up top, you can play Neres and Rafa behind him with João Mario, Freddie, and like that's the thing with the Geds signing, right? Like, I'm not the biggest Geds fan, right? I'm not as big as Oscar is on him, but he can play in so many different positions that it offers so much to the team, right? Like, we were all worried about depth, right? Like, if one guy goes down out wide, like, what do we have? He can play out wide. If someone goes down up top, he can play up top. He can play behind the forward. Like, he offers us so much that it's a great signing from that standpoint. And I even mentioned this to Mike, like, the fact that it's, like Kenny touched on it, a Benfica Academy guy who left and is now coming back, like, that just, from a Benfiquista standpoint, that it's just like that story, it's one of those, like, feel good stories, right? He's coming home.
Temporary,
great.
6 months.
Right. But it's the first, like, and I don't want to get into this huge argument, but if this is Luis Vieira as president, does this happen? Because I don't think it does.
I think he's the first since Rui Costa, if I'm not mistaken, to come back.
Yeah,
regardless
I saw that
alone.
somewhere on Facebook, and I wasn't sure if that was accurate or not. But I can't remember another academy kid who left and then came back,
or at least a relevant one.
Right. So, like, from that standpoint, like, it's a nice little storyline to have, and hopefully in the future, the Bernardo Silvas and Cancelos.
They say the two of them are unhappy at Manchester City.
Yeah.
SLBS says everyone at their top form, João Mario sits and Geds goes in.
João Mario is killed.
João Mario, yeah.
He says Ramos up top with Geds, Rafa, and Nez, which is what I mentioned, right? The possibility of the three of them. But I think with those three, I think you lose control of the ball, right? Like, João Mario just gives you that certainty of, like, the ball's there, it's in control, we're gonna move it around.
He's one of those players, like,
guys, you never know.
Like him and João Mario and Enzo are and even Freddie to an extent, like they're the heartbeat of the team, right? Like they're the ones that are going to control the pace of the play, and if we're going to go quick or if we're going to possess it, it's those type of guys that control the team. And I mean, if we're talking everyone top fitness and then top form, João Mario, you can't take him out. Not this season.
Goals today. Grimaldo scored another penalty or free kick, however you want to look at it. They seem like penalties to him at this point. Every freaking free kick around the edge of the box
It's got to be
goes
like
in.
50%.
It's unbelievable. I mean, this season.
What I don't get is like, why do players go up to him like, "Can I take this one?" Like, no, you can't. Like,
yeah, just get out of here. Yeah,
I'll tell you this though. The one today, I didn't think he was going to take it.
It was a tight angle.
It's on the wrong for him. It's on the wrong side, right? Like, I thought Enzo was going to take it, and then when he hit it, I was like, okay, yep.
It reminds me of like those years when Ronaldo was automatic. You know, when he was at Manchester United. Yeah, and it's like, why are you even going to stand next to me? Like, don't even bother. I'm going to hit this. Everyone knows.
He still does.
So I saw on the pit. So that brings me a question. So I saw on the paper that we're not meeting his contract talks.
I saw that too.
Like, I don't know, man.
He wants, like,
he's had a good season, and he's a specialist at this point. I would resign him at
I can't afford what he wants.
I have a question. I know we can't.
Well,
right?
if he's talking to us, I feel like if he's willing to work with us, I feel like that. I mean, we should be able to get to where he wants to be.
All right. So let's go back 6 months. Right, we had this conversation 6 months ago, and we kind of voted let him go, stay, get some $5 million now, or wait until the end of the season. I was the only one in this group that said keep him, even if we lose the $5 million. He's given us $5 million worth on results.
Champions League,
Champions League results, maybe the league. And you guys thought, nope, $5 million is better than nothing. What would you guys do now, knowing what you guys know today?
I'll start. So the thing is, right? Like players certainly run out of time on the team, right? They kind of just like you got to move on from him at some point. So he's been there for a long time, and there is no debate. Like prior to this season, he was trending downwards, not upwards. Now, was he still a safe player? Was he still like our best at that position for a long time? Yeah. Now, is it because he's in a contract season that he's like playing at his top potential? Maybe. But like, I mean, the guy's a fucking free kick specialist at this point. Like, he's got to be hitting like
in assists. The guy's
like he's become very important to this team. I mean, I have no question that left side is like, it's him. And,
so right now, knowing today, you will lose the $5 million, right?
I would right now in contract negotiations with him. I would go a little bit above what I'm comfortable with to keep him on the team for like, and then at least you get to re-sign him, right? Put in a new clause, and then if a team comes in and wants to overspend on him, then go for it.
In terms of salary, we won't be able to get close, right? If Benfica was to bring him or to keep him, it would have to be in like bonus money and signature money. I was told that he has a pre-agreement with Juventus already in place. And I believe his salary will be somewhere in like the 7 million range, 8 million range. That's pre-tax. Benfica salary.
Benfica's cap is like
4 million.
Four.
Double. So, and Grimaldo's second most assists in the season so far. João Mario and Neres have 8, and he has 7. Right, for a left back, like pretty impressive. And when you look at goals, I mean, he's only got 4 goals, but like it seems like he's got more. Like every goal he scored is a banger, right? So it's just like, but Bill, I'll pass it to you for Oscar's question.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, when we had this discussion, it was when those rumors of him not being happy and him like refusing to play or something came out.
Napoli wanted him.
Right. So like that was with what we knew then, right? And what the situation looked like. He was unhappy and didn't want to be at Benfica, right? So that's one of those situations where someone's unhappy and doesn't want to be there. Well, then go, right? But the way he's been playing, it doesn't look like he was. It doesn't look like that was 100% true, right? Like he might have not been happy with the manager, right, and the situation and how the team was performing. And we've touched on this plenty of times on the pod this year, right? Winning helps, right? Like the fact that the way we started the season and how we were doing in the league, Champions League, that solves a lot of players like unhappiness and issues. Looking back at it, just yeah, I would agree. Like if someone was to say lose the 5 mil or whatever, yeah, fuck it, dude. Like we made that back in Champions League already. Like it doesn't. It does that,
and that's exactly that was my point. He might not resign by August, and then we lose the 5 million. Like if somebody wanted to offer 5 million, we lose the 5 million. But if he gives us a good run in the Champions League and gets us the cup with the title, then that 5 million to me is absolutely worth losing. That was my point.
Just looking at it like that, but like if he's unhappy and came into this season the way he was playing at the end of last season, like refusing to play and shit, like then it's one of those situations where you dump the player and get what you can get, right? Like you just get out of, as Sporting would say, the masapod, right? You just got to get rid of the bad apple and move on. But from what we can see from the outside, like it doesn't look like there's any lingering issues from whatever happened at the end of last season.
Even his celebrations.
He's fully committed to the team, right? Like, he might not sign an extension and you might have a pre-agreement, but like, I mean,
that's fine. You move on.
You tripling your salary, doubling whatever, like it's
hard. It's a gamble, and to me, it was a gamble that Benfica basically came out winning, even if he doesn't renew.
If we win the league and we have a good, nice little run in the Champions League, like you live with the fact that you lost a player like that for free, right? Because you got a nice run in the Champions League. You got a nice league title out of it.
Just like the money we've made in Champions League. I mean, we're up to like 60 mil or something. And I'll be the first to put my hands up. I was one of, if not, I don't know if I was the only one, but I was definitely one of the ones that said, you just take the money and run, right? I think, like Kenny said, he was more trending down than he was trending up. But I mean, he's showed up this season, right? Like he's been extremely important to the team. I still think he has his frailties defensively. I don't think those will ever go away. I think he's more of a left wing back than he really is a left back. But he gives you so much stuff going forward. And now when he's banging free kicks in, it's just like, fuck. Like,
that's how it feels.
Yeah. And again, like I think the money that he's helped make us with Champions League, if we're able to win the league, right? Like I think I agree with you guys to the point where it's like it paid off, right? It's a gamble that paid off. Yes, we could have made money in the summer, but I think it also aligns with what Rui Costa's stated he believes in, which is taking a gamble on the sporting side of things and not just the financial side of things, which I think is a positive.
I mean, it could also spread the precedent the other way too, right? Like these players, I mean, like Enzo as well. Like they're just not going to resign, and then they're going to go away for free. I mean,
correct. Yeah,
it's not the one way; it could be the other.
And you've said it multiple times, Kenny, on the pod, right? Like I feel like this is going to be something we're going to see more and more of like players just draining down their contract and moving on a free, opposed to having to get into these massive battles of negotiations because they're more inclined to get a higher signing bonus where the club doesn't have to spend a transfer fee.
Yep.
Right. Miguel says, I want to go back to his first comment. Grimaldo got so good at it that I find myself celebrating before he kicks the ball. That made me laugh. Jay says, if you want Nuno Tavares back, Oscar, do you want him?
The Benfica Nuno Tavares, no. But the Marseille Nuno Tavares, the guy is a beast in France. I don't know what the hell is happening.
Miguel says the problem is that if we renew with Grimaldo by giving him what he asked, we'll be setting a precedent for everyone else. But I would love to see him continue, especially seeing how much he improved this year. SLBS says, I read he wants 10 million signing with the 6 million a year salary. I'd like to see more of Ristic. Why isn't he getting minutes? He seems all right. And Jay says maybe Freddie can play left back next season. I mean, shit, he's played everywhere else. Maybe we can try him there. SLBS. I've seen similar numbers. Oh wait, this one. I've seen similar numbers in terms of what rumors is that he's asking for. Again, salary wise, there's no way that we're going to be able to compete with some of the other outsiders. I think it would have to be compensated in signing bonus, performance bonuses, awards in terms of titles.
But you really can't do that because look at this. You're paying a left back, which is one of the positions in the field that is left and right back. There's probably like you get your weakest players, right? Think about or less valuable players. And then you paying them the highest salary of Benfica. Then what stops João Mário from coming in and saying,
that's the thing.
If he's getting 6 million, I want 6 million.
Correct.
What stops Enzo or Fiorentino to come back and say that?
That's what Miguel's saying, right? You set that precedent of like now.
it's just not position wise. I mean, he's got goals. He's scoring like that money that we're spending is like divide that per goal.
Right, but but João Mário could say the same thing. João Mário is one of our lead goal scorers.
That's the thing. When you have like the wage structure, right, and you set what you want your limits to be. Once you start breaking those, it can cause all sorts.
It can get out of
and we have a good example, which is Vigo. Vigo coming in with the salary he came in with. Look what happened to the locker room.
Yeah.
It kind of broke it all down, and we started sucking. So that's a good example that could break a locker room. So just Benfica needs to be careful on that.
And SLB says, let's face it, last year we would have sold him for 15 million in the last few years, and nobody was willing to pay it. I don't think any top teams look at him as a starter. He's going to be a backup. That part I'm not too in agreement with. I think there's a handful or two handfuls of teams at the top of Europe that he doesn't start on, but I think majority of teams that are looking at him, he probably starts on. But that's just my opinion. I don't know if you guys.
Well, I don't think he starts over Alexandro and Juve.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Juve.
No,
I do.
Alexandro is good, man. I don't know.
I know, but Grimaldo's good.
I think Grimaldo.
Alexandro's better defensively than Grimaldo is.
Well, that's his position. It's to defend.
Correct.
Yeah,
but I think it really depends on obviously the style. I mean, look at Alexander-Arnold. Defensively, he's a nightmare. Going forward, he's a beast, right? So
Italy's a big defensive league, though.
Yeah. So I mean,
I don't know. He won't take. I don't unless Alexander decides to leave or whatnot.
I mean, Juve might not be able to afford him anymore.
Yeah,
20 points deducted. They're not like selling
15,
players.
15. They might be fighting for the relegation at this point. Oscar or Jay says, "What's Alexander's contract?" I don't know. I don't know when his contract is up. Quickly to wrap this game up. Man of the match was Grimaldo, voted by the league or Sport TV or whoever the hell gives the vote out. What do you guys think? I'll ask I'll ask Oscar and Bill since they watched the game. Man of the match for you?
I'm in between João Mário and Grimaldo. And Audi. Audi did too. Then even though those goals were offside, I think he deserves it. But I'm okay with giving it to Grimaldo because of the goal that he scored. It's a stunner.
Yeah, I would say just the free kick alone is enough for a man of the match.
Okay, I'm gonna go different. That's nice. I'm gonna go different. I think Grimaldo was great, right? I think he's an obvious one, João Mário, but I think Auschwitz again for me was like all over the place defensively, going forward. He's involved in the play, like he's just relentless. Like I don't know how the hell the guy has the stamina, but
it's been a while since we've had a player like that, right? Where he's just all game 90 minutes.
Enzo
Perez,
right?
Yeah,
like just running nonstop. Like, no matter where the ball is, he's fucking over there and
he's
over there. Like he's just there, and it's like
trying to figure out where he plays.
He's good positionally. Like he knows his like where the ball's going to be. I feel like he knows his position on the field really well. He reminds me of Feja.
Well, it's crazy to think that he was more of a trinco, right?
Well, that's his natural position, but
right, like
he's played in these offensive positions.
His natural position is the holding mid, and we're watching him play, and he's playing on the wing. Behind the striker, like all over the place. Like it's
I feel like he has chemistry with like the players as well. Like if you compare him to like Draxler, right? Like Draxler has like no chemistry with anyone on the field, whereas Auschwitz in there, dude, he's got like chemistry. You can just feel the chemistry with the guy. They're like pinging it, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And then you compare that to like a player like Draxler, like he just seems like he's by himself. Like no one trusts him with the ball. Like it's just
Draxler. I wouldn't let him finish the season.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to terminate his.
I think
we're stuck with them.
So. They asked him today about him, and he said they believe that he's going to. Roger Schmidt said that he believes he's slowly gaining momentum, and he thinks that he'll still be influential for the team at some point this season. So we'll see. But I agree with you, Kenny. I think that even just looking at their body language, right? Like Auschwitz just looks like he has that natural fluidity with the team, like he's one of them. And I agree. Like Draxler looks like he's kind of just like. They picked someone off the sideline and was like, all right, go play with these people you don't know, right? And you're kind of like in that discomfort zone, like, are they going to give me the ball? Who should I give the ball to? So I can agree with that. I see that too. And just to answer Jay's question, Alexandro, his contract expires this year at the end of the season. So
Samir, that's a replacement.
I don't know.
When you just said that thing about Schmidt defending Draxler. It reminded me of when Jesus came out and said that Nuno Tavares was going to be.
Oh my God, Portugal's next.
Just like let's boost them up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, get those numbers up. Moving on to the first half of the season. We just reached halfway point. Benfica's top of the league. We're in the knockout stage of the Champions League. We are still in the Taça de Portugal. We are out of the Taça de Liga. We've lost one game all season, which was a terrible performance against Braga. In terms of stats as a whole, at least for the league perspective, Benfica's got 45 goals, 12 goals conceded. How would you guys rate this first half of the season from a 0 to 10? Kenny, I'll start with you.
0 to a 10? A 10. I think it's been
Really?
a terrific season.
The hell?
So there's no room for improvement?
10 is not. It's perfect, dude. What's wrong with you?
I mean, dude, we lost one game.
That's not perfect.
Near
That
perfect,
makes it
near
not
perfect.
perfect.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, honestly, I thought we were going to be good. I didn't think, I got to be honest. And despite we're not in form right now, but I did not think we were going to be like this good with a brand new coach, bunch of new players. Like, I just was expecting a little bit more of hiccups along the way. But not only did we get like started off good, Champions League was probably one of the, I got to be like the best runs we've had in a long time. Like, it really, I mean, we're playing some really good ball. I mean, 9 because there's always room for improvement. But like, yeah, I mean, I didn't expect it to have gone this well, so that's why I give it a 10.
Okay. Kenny's giving it a 10. Jason
One
gives
loss
it
all
an
season?
8.8. That's a professional score, an 8.8. Bill, how would you rate it?
Yeah, I mean, like Kenny said, right? One loss all season, like definitely not what we expected. I'd give it a 9.2, right? Like there's all room for improvement. That Braga game, dude. That I honestly think if that Braga game's played before the World Cup, like would have finished the first round unbeaten, right? That Braga game, right? Our only hiccup this season was our first back after the World Cup, and it like noticeably looked like shit, right? After a month and a half off, right? If that game's played before the World Cup, if there's no World Cup, right? There's no break. I don't see us losing that game. We would have finished the first half of the season unbeaten. Best attack in the league. I'm assuming without the 3 goals from Braga, we probably would have been one of the best defenses in the league, right? Like there's room for improvement, obviously, but like there's not much room, right? That was pretty perfect of a first round.
Yeah, we're second best defense in the league. Porto's got the best. We've conceded 12. Porto's conceded 11.
And
so even with
take those 3 Braga goals out, because I don't think we concede 3 to Braga if we're in our pre-World Cup form, right? Like best attack, best defense in the league, undefeated first round of the season. The run we had in the Champions League. I mean, it's hard to point out any things you can complain about and want like massive changes, right? Like it's hard to look at the first round that we've had. And
have you ever felt this good like in Champions League? Like I know Champions League's like a huge like the holy grail, but like I've never felt so good about a Champions League campaign.
I mean, we've gone this far before.
No, I know, but like not this dominant.
We've had
in terms of performance-wise,
right? And we got a favorable draw, like going into the next round. Like,
true.
Yeah, we have so like things at that point were like going in our way, and like we were smooth sailing at that point in the season.
So, Kenny was would you change your score to a 9?
No. I'm going to 10.
You're staying with a 10. Okay.
From Jay, like I'm not here rating pizzas, and I'm not a follower. I'm a leader, so this is my scale. I'm going with a 10, straight up.
All right, 10. He's going with a 10. Bill, what was your score?
9.2.
9.2. So we got a 10. We got a 9.2. Oscar, what are you going with here?
Here comes a 6.
No. So
here comes the bar.
So if you guys, if you rate Benfica a 10, what would you rate Porto to now?
Porto
in the first half of the season? I don't know what their
Yes,
fucking
right
stats
until
are.
now.
They're in third. I mean, Braga's in. I'd give them an 8. Porto.
Okay, so now Porto is in the final of the League Cup. Porto is in the Taça de Portugal. Porto is competing for the Champions League, right?
Mhm.
And Porto is fighting for the Campeonato.
Mm-hmm.
Benfica got knocked out of the League Cup.
Mm-hmm.
They are still in the Taça de Portugal and
Mhm.
basically in fighting for the Campeonato. So
Yeah,
to
but
me,
they're looking up. They're looking up.
I get it. If 5 points in the second half of the season started. So to me, is Benfica has a lot to improve, and because they got knocked out of the League Cup, is an 8.2. 8.2 because they're in first place. Besides that, I would rate them lower because they already lost the title, and Porto has on.
Okay, I like the analysis and the breakdown. I like that. It was good. So we got an 8.2, we got a 9.2, we got a 10, we got
What were
Jason
you
with an
expecting at the beginning of the season?
Dude, after last season, George Jesus, I probably expected us to be in 5th or 6th or 7th. So it's improvement, but I wouldn't be rating them at 8.2.
Yeah, Oscar's expectations couldn't have been good because he didn't want an international coach. Remember that?
That's true.
Yeah, he did not want Roger.
No, he did not. I would say I would put us at. I think I'm similar with Oscar in the sense of like I would go like an 8.5. Like being knocked out of the Taça Liga for me, I think I said that last time is. Does it suck? Sure. Like you want to win every competition you're in. Am I bothered by it? I really don't give it. I don't care. Like it's the fourth least or the third least important competition domestically. Fourth least important competition, I would say, in terms of Benfica's goal going into every season. Again, do you want to win everything that you're involved in? 100%.
Yeah, but doesn't make it perfect. Doesn't make the
Correct.
half
No, I
season
agree.
perfect.
So I would put us like at an 8.5. I think I would never give a 10 rating because I always think there's room for improvement unless you win every single game and smash. So I'd say I'll go with an 8.5 here in terms of my rating, which is I'm surprised I aligned more with Oscar than with Kenny and Bill. I figured it would have been the other way around, but interesting. Moving on here, transfer market. We've had some coming and some going. And I don't think I missed anyone, but in terms of incoming this January, we've had Sheldrup, Gonçalo Guedes, and Casper. Outgoing, Benfica continues to kind of clean out the house of some of the players that either don't play or they haven't been able to place recently. Yeah, so Rodrigo Pino went on loan, or Rodrigo Pino went for good. Gil Diaz just left today, or the rumor that he's leaving today, to Bazak Shakir, where Pizzi was. Conti moved. John Brooks went to Hoffenheim. Jean Vitor's on loan to Nantes. Tomas Tavares went permanent to Spartak. Enrique Araújo on loan to Watford. João Ferreira went permanently to, I think, Watford too, I want to say. I can't remember. Somewhere in England.
Yeah.
Diogo Gonçalves went to Copenhagen. How are you guys feeling about Benfica's transfer business, and not just in January, but kind of our approach to the transfer market this year in terms of what we're used to seeing, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, where it was like Yanni Gonzalez is coming in and all these guys coming in. It's basically they come in through the front door and they walk right out the back door and they never play. And there's just money going here, money going there. And they're on our books for years. I feel like we're taking a different approach. And then on the other side of it as well, in terms of the sagas and the information of like who's coming, who's going, and it's a soap opera. So how are you guys feeling about that? Ken, I'll start with you again here.
I like that we're kind of keeping our business quieter, right? Like I feel like we don't really know about these transfers until like the day of or the day before, like that the signing's about to happen. So I actually it's not really good entertainment on our end, right? Like it's not something you can really talk about because you only find out about it after. So, but for the club keeping the business inside the walls of Benfica, I like it. I think it keeps also away like. I always felt like when Benfica was rumored to get a player, Porto always ended up with them, right? Like it would be in the papers for a month and then they would end up being at Porto. So it's like a part of me likes it because it like keeps it under the clean sheets. Although behind the scenes, I'm sure they're all talking, agents talking with teams and all that. But I do like cleaning the house. I think we've had for a long time we've had players like you said that just never played, never saw the field. So it's good that the ones that we have that have some potential are getting loaned out. And then the new players coming in. I mean, I don't know anything about those two young kids that got signed. Let's see what comes of them. But yeah, I like the way we're running business. I did not like the Enrique Eruju getting loaned out. I'm not a Musa guy. I think if there was a backup, I would have rather have been the kid. But I also see the other side where, if he actually gets minutes in the Premier League, that's only going to benefit him and benefit us when he comes back, hopefully.
Championship.
Yeah, he's in the championship.
And that was part of.
But it's
the
still, I mean,
Watford.
Still,
Yeah.
It's still
the
high level.
league
Yes,
is
very high level. Yeah.
But that was also part of
Why
the
they let him go.
negotiation was Benfica, as Watford had to play him in a certain percentage of games in order for him to go. So I think, again, that shows Benfica's different approach to loaning players and the purpose behind it, right? Like I see them loaning Enrique Araújo with the mindset of him coming back and being like a Tinu, right? Coming back in and being more developed and more mature, opposed to in the past, it was like, hey, we got these 25 players. We're going to loan them. I don't care where they go. I don't care if you play, but you're just going to go somewhere, right? And I feel like there's a strategy now.
Was he killing it on the B team?
Yeah, he's been scoring on the B team as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I really would have liked to have seen him with more minutes, like Musa minutes. I think you'd be more productive than Musa's been. But I mean, then again, I think there was a big investment in Musa, so that's why they're giving him a full opportunity here.
Fair. My biggest concern when it comes to this is this is reason why I was so basically not in favor of a foreign coach, is because we see a lot of Portuguese going out and a lot of foreigners coming in. Even though Guedes came in for 6 months, he's not a permanent signing. Now you see Casper and Andreas, they're coming in as full signings. And we see these Portuguese kids from the academy, because the Rui Costa's big thing, and we should be it was academy. Bruno Lage came in, and half of our team at one point, we had 8 Portuguese players on the 11, right? Now we're starting to see less and less and less. So I don't know.
We're probably the team in Portugal with probably the most Portuguese.
No, I'm not. I know, but
especially out of the big three,
we're declining. Like Diogo Gonçalves is gone, Gil Diaz is gone. Like Chiquinho was almost gone until he just stepped up and became Ronaldinho.
Yeah, my thought with all these academy guys, right? And it's you give them a shot, but you out of the thousands that go through the academy, you're not going to hit on all of them, right?
No, that's true.
The same thing with the signings. It's quality over quantity, right? You got to pick and choose. Do the search, right? Scouting departments, and you figure out who you need, and make sure you hit on those that you sign, right? Instead of signing 10 fucking guys in Jan transfer window like we used to, you sign 2 or 3. Those 2 or 3 better fucking hit, right?
Right. And now what do you know about? I mean, he must know more about these guys than we do. Obviously,
Jason actually made the comment, right? And I it perfect sense, right? Freddie, none of us fucking knew who this fucking guy was, right? He was obviously a Roger-esque, right? Coming from the Dutch league, he knew who he was, had played against him, knows him. I'm assuming these 2 Nordic kids were a Roger-esque, because it's a market that we never fucking go dabbing our toes into. We're in South America, we're in that's our market. Getting these kids from fucking wherever, Norway, I think one's from Norway, I can't remember where the other one's from, but a market that we never go into. So I'm assuming this is a Roger who's had his eyes on these kids, right? And as of right now, he nailed it with Freddie.
Now, what do you say? What do you say if we paid, how much was it? 5 million for one and 10?
Yeah, these are low. These are
Sheldrup, I think, was 10 plus bonus 5 or
low risk.
Right.
So low money, but when you say
low,
kids,
when you say low risk, I
don't think it's low risk.
Benfica, I think 10 million is not low risk.
I was going to say Sheldrup, I don't think is low risk,
especially for a kid who's young kids, right?
Say right now, academy play, I'm just using an example. Diogo Moreira, right? During preseason, he showed some somewhat he had potential, right? But you don't give him an opportunity because he's definitely low risk, right? But then you go and give it to some 18-year-old that comes from Denmark. a higher risk because you're paying more. But I don't know. And if they don't pay now, that means we lose a lot more money because there's a lot higher risk there.
With the academy, it's one of those things where like from as a Benfiquista, you want to see the full, like you would love to see the starting 11 for Benfica be all academy kids. It's not going to fucking happen, right? Like you're going to have to pick and choose which academy kids get their shot, and then you go and pick and choose guys you have to sign, right? And like it's got to be a mixture, like. And these academy kids, like you touched on Diogo Moreira, right? Like these kids, he got a shot on the preseason, right? He was training with the first team, got a shot all preseason, was sent down to the B team. He's not even fucking playing on the B team now. Like,
no,
clearly something's wrong in that kid's head where he either was thinking too much of himself and I won the Champions League, the Youth Champions League. I won the youth. What was it on the Intercontinental, whatever?
Yeah,
the one they
Intercontinental.
Yeah, like this kid was a full of himself, right? Like, didn't show anything. Like, I'm standing with the manager on this one, right? Like, if you don't show anything in training, you don't deserve a shot to play, right? You have to show in training that you deserve an opportunity to play in a game, and if you're not showing it in training, you're not going to get your shot to play in a game.
No,
so if he's not showing it in training, obviously he's not going to get playing time.
Well, he's not
sent to the B team.
No,
he gets sent to the B team, and now he's not even playing on the B team. So clearly, there's something.
But he's not the only one, right?
Like
right. Benfica's had plenty of cases in the B team. Again, and it's not just Benfica, right? Kids that have a good season or a good moment, and then all of a sudden they start to get in their head. Their agents start to chirp in their head, right? And it's like Ronaldo Camara, same thing, right? He left Benfica, he went to Monza. Now he just rescinded his contract with Monza, right? And he was a player that people spoke highly of him. Diogo Moreira is going through a similar situation now, right? And there's a few others that Embalo, another one, right? Another one that was, supposed to be a huge thing. His agent got in his ear and everything fell apart, right? So there's a lot of those situations. And they say there's a few that Benfica have coming up on end of contract and probably not going to renew with them because there's just too much. They want too much and they want too many guarantees, where Benfica is like, listen, like I can't guarantee you that you're going to be a first team player, right? Like you need to show me. And it brings me back to an interview that I saw from Michael Jordan, where he said the players of the past had to prove themselves before they got the deal because there wasn't social media. There wasn't all this stuff. The players of today get the deal before they prove themselves. And I think it speaks volumes, right? Because the exposure today is not like it was back in the day, right? So today you score a nice goal or you have a nice move and it's like, sign that guy, right? Let's give him the money. Let's get him on the contract because it's a low risk, potential high reward, right? Whereas in the past, it wasn't like that. So I think, unfortunately, we're going to continue to have those issues and hopefully we can just weed out those guys that it's like, listen, you don't want to be here, then go find another place to be. And
wait, but then again, we just did it to Andres. Andres is 18 years old. What's he proven right now?
But but that comes from the scouting. We haven't seen him. We don't know what he's proven. But obviously, he's proven something from a scouting perspective.
Like those two guys are supposed to be promesses of their country. So it's like,
and they say those two guys are like two of the highest rated. And even Andrea Scherdrup, they say there's people that say they don't know how the hell Benfica got him over some of the big European clubs that wanted him. I know Liverpool was one of them, and he declined Liverpool. Potentially, maybe he was going to get more minutes at Benfica. That's a potential scenario.
Well,
or a guarantee.
Maybe
on the contract.
But I'll say this because I understand that the $10 million isn't chunk change to Benfica, and I get that. But we're used to now spending over 10 million on players. I mean, we paid 20 something for Cebolinha and
25 for Darwin.
And those players don't pan out. I get 10 million is not a lot, but it is, to me, it's more of a low risk than going back to Brazil. I mean, the Brazilian market isn't what they used to be. I mean, you're paying over $10 million a player over there. I mean, João Vitor, I don't know how much he costs, and he hasn't even played a minute for Benfica, I don't think.
He's played.
He played in the Taça Liga. He just got loaned to Nantes.
But it's not the market that we were used to from like a decade ago. So it's like I like that we're, like Bill was saying, we've got a coach where clearly he's got a little bit more insight into these markets that we're not familiar with, and the scouting team is doing their due diligence and able to get some of these players. Now, could they absolutely be flops? 100%. I mean, we're not going to hit on every player.
Correct.
Ausnes was a good example, and these two kids could be awful examples. But it's a 10 million mistake versus going to Brazil and making another 20 million mistake, because that's where
But we didn't make a 20 million mistake with Savola. He didn't pin out, but we didn't lose that much money on him. Like they got him back for like what, 18 million?
Okay, and these kids, I mean, you're spending 10. You could probably get 12, 15 from it, right? Like they're still,
especially given their age. Yeah,
they're so young.
They're young, and someone's gonna overpay for them, because there's not many markets that you can go out and get players for cheap money anymore.
Who was the Serbian kid that was attacking number
Markovic.
10? No, the other one that came with him.
Judicic.
That basically just didn't pin out. He was supposed to be the stud. He was supposed to be the number 10.
I actually had really high hopes for him, and he just never panned out for us.
Who's the one? Zikovic was the same thing.
But he was decent. He played.
When we signed him, he was like the best.
We had a bunch of
player.
them that year: Zivkovic, Judicic,
Markovic.
Markovic. We had the center back. I forgot what the hell. Mitrovic, the center back. We had like half the Serbian national team.
Yeah.
All right. I want to move on to the last segment here before we wrap up. Overrated, underrated, perfectly rated, based on their career at Benfica. Jason picked the player for today.
Wait. So we're doing all. I thought everybody had to pick a player, and then we just
everyone's doing Gaitan.
You should save Jay's player for when Jay's on the pod. So
he can't even defend him.
No, he already gave his opinion. The player he picked for us to debate today was Nico Gaitan.
Call in Jay.
Overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated based on his Benfica career. I'm going to give you guys some stats here. 261 official matches, 41 goals, 89 assists. He won 3 league titles, 1 Taça de Portugal, 5 Taças de Liga, 1 Supertaça. Joined Benfica from Boca Juniors for 8.4 million. Sold to Atletico Madrid for 25 million.
Say the stats one more time.
261 official matches, 41 goals, 89 assists. 3 league titles, 1 Taça de Portugal, 5 Taças de Liga, 1 Supertaça. Bought him for 8.4 million, sold him for 25 million to Atletico Madrid. He played 6 seasons. In his first season, he had 9 assists and 10 goals. He was top 3 in assists, top 5 in goals. In his following 5 seasons, he was the number 1 assists in the Benfica team across all competitions. He had 17 assists, 13 assists, 13 assists, 16 assists, and 20 assists in his last season. He had 5 goals or 10 goals his first season, 5 goals his second, 5 goals, 8 goals, 4 goals, 11 goals. His last season at Benfica was his best with 20 assists, 11 goals. And he played alongside guys like Saviola, Aymar, Jonas, Enzo, Markovic. He didn't overlap with Di Maria, but he played with some studs: Ramirez, Witsels, Cardozo,
Pizzi.
Lima. Pizzi, I think he only overlapped 1 season. It was Pizzi's first
season.
Was it 2? But even if he was 2, Pizzi he out assisted Pizzi, and I think Pizzi joined 14-15, and Gaitan was still leading assist in those 2 seasons. There's a lot that can be said here. Oscar, I'll start with you. Underrated, overrated, or perfectly rated, and I'll give you guys each 2 to 3 minutes to say your piece.
All right. So Gaitan, Jason thinks he's underrated, right? And I'm trying to understand why he thinks he's underrated, because I don't think any Benfica fan.
That's why it's important he's here.
Yeah, I don't know of any Benfica fan that thinks, oh, Gaitan sucked at Benfica or he's whatever. Like every time, a lot of people that we talk to actually put Gaitan on their preferred 11 for Benfica's our lifetime, right? So I don't think he's underrated. I think he's perfectly rated just for that reason, because I don't hear Benfica fans saying Gaitan sucked or Gaitan should leave or blah, blah. But then I asked Jason on the text message, I asked, do you think Pizzi is underrated? And he goes, no, Pizzi is overrated. And then I compare the numbers, and I'm like, holy shit, let me go check out the numbers. Maybe because that's how the reason I regard a player of overrated, high, or underrated, or perfectly rated is what they've done for Benfica, right? So I come and I see Gaitan's numbers. You just said them, right? Perfect numbers, and I say perfectly rated. So why is Pizzi underrated when he has 234 games for Benfica only for the cup. Starts 195. Has 64 goals, 65 assists. Like, how is that underrated or overrated for Pizzi? So if you want to be fair to Gaitan and say he's underrated, then go ahead and be fair to Pizzi as well. Both of them, I think to be honest, Pizzi is underrated for Benfica fans for the numbers he's put up, and I think Gaitan is perfectly rated because nobody says Gaitan sucked at Benfica.
I don't think Jay's point was that people say he sucks. I think I think that he says that he's not a player. Yeah, that right there. He's not a player.
People don't talk about him.
They don't talk about him enough of how important he was for that.
I don't agree with that.
I don't know.
I also don't agree with that. But I don't think it's because like people say he sucks and they don't say
no. But you have to think about like Cardozo is gone. Cardozo was unbelievable. One of our best strikers, foreign strikers of all time, right? Do we talk about Cardozo every day or say no? Gaitan's the same thing. Like once you're gone for 5 years, you're gonna be forgotten by the fans. You're not gonna forgotten meaning like you're not gonna be brought up when we're talking about the best 11 or who is your favorite player of all time with Benfica. That's when you're gonna be brought up. But like other than that, you don't talk about Ramirez. And Ramirez is unbelievable. You don't talk about David Luiz, and he was good for Benfica. Like that's we just don't talk about him.
Yeah. I agree with a point Oscar made, right? Like if you were to ask a lot of kids. A lot of people our age, right? Like this generation, to like best 11 that you've seen play, I think Nico Gaitan is in probably 90% of those best 11s, right? Like I think
is he though?
No, he's not, dude. Stop it.
In the Benfica teams that you've seen play, you don't think Nico Gaitan is in the majority of those?
No,
11s?
they're not.
But see, I'm going to stop you there, and that's where I think Jay thinks that he's underrated.
No, but because we have Simão Sabrosa, who nobody takes his spot, right? We have Di Maria, who nobody takes his spot. So that's two wingers. Obviously, Gaitan is not going to be a third winger there.
I think I would, dude. I love Simão, but I would take Nico.
What?
What?
Oh, now you just smoked. You smoked. You drank a lot of fucking whiskey, and you need to go back to bed. Go to bed. Get out of that toilet and go back to bed. Go to bed.
Nico is a better player than Simão.
Dude, you're unbelievable. Dude, stop. You just made me puke.
Really?
Okay. Mike, I love Simão, but I think Nico's a better player.
You tá a ficar maluco, cala-te.
I disagree with that too.
100%. Oh my God.
I'll say this, and Mike brought it up. Nico Gaitan, yes, very good player. I do not think he's overrated. I think he's rated perfectly fine. Yeah. He was on a team during a time Benfica was unstoppable. So yes, Gaitan had a lot to do with that, or didn't have a lot to do. He had something to do with that, but those were, like Mike said, stacked teams. Stacked. So I think he wasn't one of those players where it was like Nico Gaitan plus 11. It was more like
it was one of them.
Like that team was a unit, and Nico just happened to play on that team.
And not only that, just remember, Simão played with junk players, and he won as a league after 10 years of being on the.
I know this isn't the segment, but for me, that was going to be my player. But I know it's not the segment. We'll leave it for another conversation. But to me, Simão.
Unbelievable.
To me, is underrated because of what he did. It was Simão plus 10.
100%.
In my opinion. In one of the most difficult times of the club. So, but we're talking about Nico Gaitan. I think he's perfectly rated.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I don't like him. I don't appreciate him. I absolutely appreciate him. He was a good player for Benfica. Really good player. I think he's perfectly rated though.
Dude, I still can't even. My mind is not processing what Bill just said. I just can't even talk.
I will die on that hill. I think Nico Gaitan
you should
is a better player than Simão was.
And what makes you think that, dude? Tell me what in your world makes you think that. Tell me what.
Hold on, before he answers you, I gotta go to the comments. So Chico Marcelino says Simão was the player of the 2000s decade for Benfica, and SLB says kick that guy out right now. Simão's the best player we've had in the last 20 years.
Good. I like
it. Bill, answer Oscar's question.
I'm with Amelia. Wait, Jay, you have to answer. You also.
Holy shit! Thanks with me, dude. This is.
You think
he's the one who picked this guy.
Bill.
Oh my God.
Answer Oscar's question.
I think Simão was great. I love Simão, but yeah, I think Nico on the ball was better than Simão, right? think Nico created better than Simão could create. Simão might be. I would give Simão the edge on finishing. I think Simão was a better finisher, but I think Nico's skill on the ball and his ability to create was far superior than Simão was, and for that alone, I take that in a player all day, and especially in a team like Benfica had in those years with Cardoso and Jonas. Like he didn't have to score a shit ton of goals. Like he was one that created, and like you said, 5 or 6 years in a row where he was the leading assister on the team. Like he would just create for everyone else, and him on the ball was
Mike. How easy is it for you to get stats on both?
Dude, was Nico Gaitan ever called up to the national team?
He did to be right bench.
Yeah, but if you also look at the seleção that Argentina had, I don't think you can compare it to the teams that we had, right?
I forgot about Salvio. Salvio was better than Gaitan and Benfica to me.
Now you're crazy.
Oh, I'm crazy.
I don't agree with that.
Tell me,
100%.
dude. I don't understand.
You're in the same boat as me now.
No, I'm not. I'm not in the same boat because
craziness.
Salvio to me was a true. Gaitan, like he's perfectly rated, dude. Nobody's ever seen Gaitan as bad or anything like that.
I agree. Gaitan's perfectly rated.
Yeah. So, well, better than Simão.
Personally, I just think he's better than Simão. Yes, my personal.
I'm going to give you the numbers.
You're underrating Simão. I mean,
I'm going to give you the numbers here. So SLB says Simão, Di Maria, Salvio, Ramirez all much better than Gaitan. Jay says I love Nico. Simão is great, man, but I take Nico if I had to pick one. Those would be my wingers, Simão and Gaitan. If I had to put an all-time I've seen Benfica. Surprised you leave Di Maria out. SLBS says Rafa Neres are also much better than Gaitan. That's a bold statement. In terms of numbers, Simão at Benfica, 218 official matches, 91 goals, 52 assists. So we had
compare those three with Gaitan.
So we had more than double the amount of goals, and Gaitan had an extra 38 assists.
But think about this: Simão played with
Correct.
who, and then Gaitan played with who? Gaitan crossed the ball to Cardoso, and Cardoso find the net, right?
Yeah, and Lima,
and
Rodrigo.
Now tell me.
I'm not arguing that Simão wasn't good. I love Simão. Just as a player, I think Gaitan is better.
Wow, this is a good argument.
Interesting.
I mean, this is a good discussion. I don't think it's an argument.
No, it's not an argument. It's not even comparable.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Oscar. I'm flabbergasted that Jay even said that. I mean,
dude,
that's crazy.
Simão is almost regards after Luizão one of our best captains.
100%.
Ran the team. That basically carried the team in his back.
I'm not disagreeing with any of this. I just, as a player, I prefer Nico Gaitan.
Oh man, this is gonna when I bring Simão Sabrosa is my underrated player, and God, it's like coming to fruition like in front of my eyes.
Well, we'll have to pick another good one for next week, but this was definitely an interesting debate and surfaced some opinions that clearly threw some people off. I mean, SLBES kicked Bill off the podcast.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
Bill's been fired.
Tune in next week to see if I'm back.
What's your take here?
Just don't.
I think he's perfectly rated. I think he was really good while he was here, but I do agree with your perspective of like it's much easier to perform in a team that's well oiled and playing well, right? And when you have the options, right, than it is to play in a team that maybe doesn't have as good of an options, right? I think the Simão and Gaitan comparison, I think we might want to check what's in that cup, Bill. I don't know what's going on over there, but ginger ale. Yeah.
I know people like Jay likes Nico, and I get it. He's the guy that he's been a fan of Nico's. He's like maybe he likes the style of playing, but when it comes to what means more to a team, Simão or Nico to Benfica, somebody that picks Nico over Simão, or either don't know much about the game, or they just trying to
drank
argue.
Too much ginger ale. That could be
it's been so long they forgot. They forgot. Right? Nico's more recent to the memory.
Yeah. O Abílio ainda mijava nas botas. Jay says he'd pick them both. So Jay's a fan of both of them.
He puts them both on the lineup.
Yeah. But yeah, I think he's perfectly rated, but I think again, it's much easier to perform. I mean, look at a guy like Markovic, right? Like he was lights out at Benfica, right? And then he was never able to find himself when he left, right? So I think playing in a team that performs well, again, not taking anything from Gaitan, I thought he was really good. He had some brilliant moments. That Panenka goal that he scored in the Champions League versus PAOK, against Atletico Madrid, against Juventus, the game that we made it to the Champions or to the Europa League final. He he loved himself a game against Sporting, not just that one play. I mean, it seemed like every time he played against Sporting, he was up for it. But yeah, I think he's definitely perfectly rated. But I do see Jay's perspective in the sense of like when people talk about the Benfica of JJ version 1.0, a lot of times other players are talked about first over him, right? You got the not so much the media because they didn't play at the same time, but Saviola, right? Oscar just mentioned Saviola, Aimad, Cardozo, right? And I think with justification, right? Like those guys were monsters themselves, right? But I think that's where Jay's thought process is. I could be wrong, but I think that's where his thought process is in the sense of like all those other names are thrown around more frequently than you hear Gaitan. But I don't think it takes away from what he gave to us. But I agree with you guys that I think I agree with Oscar and Kenny. I guess Bill said he's perfectly rated.
I mean, he's perfectly rated, yeah.
But I mean, you said he's perfectly rated, but then you dropped a grenade in the middle of that perfectly rated.
I think Simon's perfectly rated as well. I just prefer a player like Nico over Simon. I mean,
all right. So Jay agrees that I depicted his visualization of this spot on. So I think we settled that. Quickly before we jump off, Dave says, our Braga buddy. I'll ask Dave's question. I'll ask you guys a quick question too to wrap up. Neds for all his athleticism and talent. Is he getting better as a player? He is 26. Has he looked like a player whose value has increased? Anyone want to take that?
I saw something. I think it was the ex-Ajax coach or fitness guy or something was talking about how he like Ned always seems to like get injured when he's in like full peak and performing and at his best. And I mean, we saw it, right? Like he was lights out to begin the season, and now it doesn't seem like he can stay fit and get back to that form.
That's why we got
the deal we made to sign him, right? Like we
good.
Essentially didn't pay anything, right? Like it was we were just cleaning a debt that they had. So I mean, if we were to sell him at that point, it's essentially profit. And I think we easily turn around and sell him for more than, I think it was 10 or 12 mil, right? I think it's what the essential transfer value was.
Oh yeah,
bottom.
Yep.
I think we can, in today's market, you turn around and sell him for
as long as he stays fit. I think
more than that. Yeah.
You know what I think? I think him coming in at 89th minute on a game is not.
I thought it was weird.
It's not going to help.
It's not going to help him. No.
He's a player that he feels like he's important to the team, or I think he should feel like he's important to the team. Like he should be like fighting for a lot. And he's coming in at 89th minute. It's almost like what happened with Ronaldo, Manchester United coming in late and him saying no. And I felt that when he came in today in the 89th minute, like he was not happy. Like it's a time wasting players, and he's not a time wasting player.
I think he's one of those players where, and like we said it about Rafa, where you feel like the manager needs to like talk him up and kind of coddle him a little bit. I feel like he might be one of those players, like type of players as well, where like he needs like the manager's like full support and like publicly. And I agree. I don't think being subbed on with a minute or whatever left in the game is going to help your confidence at all. Because I mean, we've all been there, and they call you in, and you're like, "Fuck's the point? Like, what's the point of this?" Like,
do you think he's kind of just building it up? Like he's coming off injury. Do you think he's like building him up to kind of
build him up with 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something up with a minute.
And also keeping him.
Today was strange. Like normally you don't see like him being subbed on like that, right? If he's coming on, he's typically coming on with
60th minute, 70th minute.
Today I think was out of the norm.
I didn't see it, so I don't know. But like I think he's also probably trying to protect the player so that when we have the Champions League run, he's like fit, ready to go, and not.
I think
still with him.
Dude, we had Freddie. Freddie is on one more yellow. He's out the next game, right? Freddie played the whole game. Why not take Freddie out and put Neres in a little earlier so he can get back into the rhythm? But he kept Freddie the whole game.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
It's hard to question Roger's tactics and moves so far this season. So
Sylvia says he's coming back from an injury. He needs minutes physically. is not ready for 90 minutes. He's not, and he played recently. I think he played 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think I agree with Oscar, right? Like the fact that he came in today in the 89th minute, right? I think there were other options on the bench that potentially could have come on to burn a sub or to burn some time.
Yeah.
And not Neves, right? I mean, on the bench we had Gilberto, Lucas Veríssimo, Morato, João Neves, right? Like João Neves
is a guy that could have came in. Yeah.
He could have came in for a minute or 3 minutes or whatever the hell it was.
It's something contractually? I don't know.
I don't think I'd like to think that there's nothing wrong there, right? But I do think it was odd that he was the chosen player to come in 2-0 in the 89th minute. But from what he's shown us in the first 2-3 months of the season, I think he could be and should be a very pivotal player to us for the run out.
I think
if he stays fit. I think he will be as well.
I hope so. But it's 6. I mean, yeah, we got to give it time.
I mean, with Geddes coming in, right, you have that option to be able to give him some rest and not have to
and it takes pressure off him, I feel, right?
Right, like you don't have to rely on him
correct
constant. Like you have that option where you can, even with Rafa, like you can rotate those 3 guys. Yeah. There's games where you can sit one and rest guys, and like at this point you start playing for the long season and hoping that you're making a deep run in Champions League, and you're going to need the fresher legs longer into the season.
Yeah, so to finish up here, Benfica plays next against Aroca, another away match. That'll be 3 in a row. We went to Santa Clara, we went to Paços Ferreira. We're going
Why
to
is that? Why 3
do we go back home? Holy shit.
It's because the Paços Ferreira game is from the 20th jornada. So it's 2 games ahead, but we moved it back. I think it was for scheduling reasons. So we played 3 away. We're going to go to Braga for the Taça. Or we're going to play at home against Casa Pia, then we go to Braga for the Taça, and then we go to Bruges. So we have a run of 6 games, and 5 of them are away from home, which is a pivotal phase for us.
We're 2-0 right now away.
Yeah, so we got 3 more.
I mean, we have to keep it going.
Correct. So we play at Aroca next week. I believe it's on Wednesday. We'll be back next week to talk about that game because we don't play this weekend. Also, don't forget social media. If you like our podcast, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a share on YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. Dave says, do you agree with the schedule change? I don't know what the ins and outs were of it, to be honest with you. I know Paços Ferreira was against it. I'm assuming it was because of scheduling reasons. I also saw Benfica requested it moved up to keep like their physical levels high and not have a long break in between games. Because if we didn't play this game now, we would have had 10 days off or something like that before we played at Aroca, because there was the Taça Liga games this week, right? So I think that was basically our filler to maintain some fluidity there. So I don't know the ins and outs of it. If that was the reason, like, somebody agreed to it, right? If Paços Ferreira was against it, I mean, it's not like Paços Ferreira is playing a shit ton of games either, right? So it's not like they're in Europe and it's creating chaos there. Paços Ferreira, no, because they play Gil Vicente, which is important for them. And I get it, right? Like, I don't know the ins and outs of it. If it went against any regulations, then fine. I understand Benfica's approach to it. I don't know what went into the decision. But again,
I mean, I would assume someone at Paços would have had to agree. Like, I would imagine the league can't just be like, "Hey, you're changing it." Like,
yeah, I don't know what the requirements are there, but I know that I read that Paços Ferreira was against them moving it up. But again, I don't know the ins and outs of the decision making there. Again, don't forget to check us out on social media, on the audio platforms as well. For those of you listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, be sure to follow us and give us a rating. And overrated, underrated, perfectly rated. If you have your recommendations or suggestions for who you think we should debate next time, let us know. Let us know in the messages in the chat of this podcast. You can send us a message. There's plenty of ways to get a hold of us. We'd be interested to see who you guys think we should be debating next. If not, we'll pick our own. There's plenty to debate, but yeah, don't pick C-Mel. Give it a couple of weeks so we could talk about C-Mel. I think we exhausted that one today. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in, gentlemen. As always, a pleasure. We'll be back next week. And as always, Viva Benfica.
Team C-Mel.
Viva.